Hey, everybody, it's Dave, Cooper, and Jennifer, and you caught us typing away on the computers here. How'd you like that intro, huh?
That was awesome.
It is awesome. We got some new branding stuff going on the screen, so just bear with us as we play around with everything. So, hey, listen, so if you're tuning in, this is an episode of Building Modular with my host, Jennifer Cooper, and we are here to continue our conversation in regards to setting modular buildings. What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're in week 7 now of our Building Modular series. Last week, we took a little bit of a detour, if you will. We actually broadcast live from West Islip, New York.
We did. So, and this episode is actually brought to you by ModLogic and Access Construction, who was so generous to have us down in West Islip, New York, and we did the hospital modular addition. Almost 7,000 square feet in less than 2 days, and they will be up and running here in the next month and a half, 2 months at that hospital, an emergency pediatric care unit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unbelievable. And what was so neat was that as all of the construction workers were there on site in their PPE, keeping their socially distanced space, the healthcare workers were just completely in awe of how quickly everything was moving and actually thanking the crews there for helping them get that pediatric ward up so quickly.
You know what? They really were. In fact, it was one of those ironic things where they were coming out telling us we were miracle workers for how fast the building was going in. But the reality of it is they're the miracle workers, right? We're just helping provide them some housing and some support. And if you saw the intro, that was the actual set. And that was the addition that we were doing. And it's also on the outro at the end of at the end of this show, we're going to play that as well.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Those videos are so easy to kind of overlook, but it's super neat when it's the real deal.
Yeah.
And it's showcasing a set. And what's the topic of today's episode?
Modular sets.
Yeah.
Setting modular. Whether it is residential, whether it's commercial, we're going to touch base on a little bit of both today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So is that my cue to pull up the slide again?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right.
And while Dave is doing that, just wanted to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. And as always, let us know where you're tuning in from and what line of work you're interested in terms of residential, construction. Are you an on your lot builder? Do you only build for sale? So share a little bit about who you are, what you do. We'd love to know more about you.
Yeah, we really would. And please hit that like and share button right now so we can garner some more people in here that want to learn about modular construction. And like Jennifer said, we want to know where you're coming in from today. So, all right, Jennifer. Shall we start?
Yeah. Let's jump in. So like we were talking about last week, we were on location and talking about the delivery and the setting of the modules. The week prior to that, it really was about release for production and everything that we need to do before we order the home or the modules from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're going to pick it up from there essentially. And the modules are done. They've been transported to the site, and now what?
Now we set.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we set. All the logistics were done, the staging areas. This set in West Islip, New York. I mean, these units had to come in after midnight because they weren't able to go wide loads. Can't go across the George Washington Bridge and some of these other bridges. So they limit the amount of access for these modules coming in for sure.
Yeah. So as we've been breaking this down, we were talking pre-construction, construction. We are fully in the installation mode right now.
We are pre-construction, construction. Should I move? Is that for the next slide, Jennifer?
Oh gosh, you're always bouncing ahead.
I know.
So 2 weeks ago, we did talk about transport. And like you were mentioning, it's critical that you understand the route that you're taking, whether or not traffic control is required. Figuring out those staging locations.
Right.
And, here you can see, these are some photos from that ModLogic and Access Construction set at Good Samaritan Hospital.
Yep.
And one thing that we wanted to talk about once the modules are delivered is inspecting the modules.
That's right. I mean, it's a very, very important thing to do once they're delivered and set. Typically, is when most people are going to, walk through the inside. But when they are delivered, you want to make sure that the outside of it, there's no tears in the membrane that's protecting everything, especially if it's coming in the day before, the night before, or a couple days before. The last thing you want is any water issues.
Absolutely.
So the manufacturers and the drivers are all really great at checking those things, but it is your project. So you better have somebody else double check it.
Absolutely. And these things are being driven down major highways, and things do happen,
They do.
Unknowingly. So once the modules are on site, definitely walk around, inspect all the modules. And then once they start tearing off that protective wrap,
right.
This is where you want to check for any ship loose items. So on many occasions, items that aren't installed at the factory are set in the modules, tied down. And this is where, from your pre-construction meetings, from your release for production meetings, you should have a ship loose document of everything that you're ordering from the factory. And this is where you really want to take inventory and make sure that everything did arrive.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And, there is a lot of ship loose items. And I mean, that's the value of modular construction is, I should show that video that I did of the O'Krent house, where I walked through and all the stuff's on the floor and it's all laid out. But, having all the supplies there so you can get started right away is key to the success of modular construction through in and throughout.
So in terms of residential construction, can you give us some examples of what might be ship loose and some things to look out for in terms of which modules they're in?
Yeah, well, so that's the tricky part. So things are going to be ship loose. Let's say you were doing vinyl siding. Vinyl siding would be ship loose, or maybe it's a commercial building and you're doing an EPDM rubber roof, or just residential shingles. Things that aren't completed at the factory because we are bringing pieces together, you're going to find a lot of those things inside the modules. If you have ship loose doors, walkout basement, you have site built garages, anything like that, you're going to find those things. They're typically going to be laid flat, ship loose in the structure itself. So it really just depends on what building it is and what the use of the building is and how it's going to be used. But it can be anything from hanging lights, right? We don't want lights swinging around. Right. So a lot of times we'll have the lights ship loose. Now you made a good point. What modules? This is where the factories fail short a lot of times. And I'll say why, because sometimes, like, let's say you're doing a multi-story building. Well, the door for the first floor might be in a module that's on the second or third floor. Right. So sometimes things don't always end up in the right module, or for shipping or weight reasons, they had to shift some stuff around. So I give them a little bit of leeway. But usually it's like if there's a ship loose countertop or something like that that's super heavy.
A refrigerator,
and it's on the wrong floor and you don't catch it before you set those modules. It can be heck to pay.
Yeah. So this is where those checklists really come in handy, because really you only bump into this scenario once. It's the first time and the last time when it's in the wrong module and it's on the third floor and you need it in the first, or vice versa, which could be tough when you have some homes. Like we do a lot of multi-story homes in densely populated beach communities. So the staircases can be tight sometimes.
Very, very, very tight.
U-shaped staircases, 2, 3 sets of staircases. So you really want to make sure that those items are on the right floor. Yeah,
especially switchback. We did a job, and I remember, and the client we designed it for a Viking refrigerator, and it was like 48 inches wide. Nobody took into account 3 stories on U-shaped switchback stairs. It didn't fit.
Right.
And those are heavy. So we had to actually take out a window and crane it in. But long story short, big thing. Inventory is important. Checking your inventory, making sure what you ordered is there. You do not want to wait for a week or 2 weeks. You need to get in there right away. Check for damages, anything that could have happened in transportation. These things are coming a couple 100 miles down the road typically.
Exactly.
And write it down and make sure you report it with the manufacturer right away and start the process to either get something repaired, replaced, or if it's missing, have it shipped to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Next.
So now we're going to talk about the crane.
We are. We are. So what do you want to talk about?
I knew you were going to say that.
So depending on the project and what we're doing. And so this is a residential set. In this crane, I believe was about 110. I'd have to look at it, 120, 110 size crane. But in reality, depending on what type your foundation is, how close you can get to the foundation, the size of the home, crane size is going to be anywhere typically from a 60-ton crane on up to 225, 250-ton cranes. I think that's when you get to the certain higher levels in commercial, especially. So with that said, on average, I know throughout most of my career, I was somewhere in that 110 to 120 range on most of the cranes that we use. And crane placement is important. So again, going back to the pre-planning side of this, you need to make sure that when you're planning, you have the crane company come out there with the set crew, if a set crew person can come down, but really the crane person is going to set up and own that site during the lift process. They want to know exactly where they need to be. And the further they have to be away from your foundation, the more expensive the crane gets, because everything's done with a boom, right? So that crane can only go so far out of center before it loses its ability to lift a certain weight load. So depending on the size of your project, depending on where the crane sets up, is going to determine the crane size. Rule of thumb, get the crane as close to the foundation that you possibly can and as centered on that foundation as you possibly can. Now, that's residential and small commercial. You get into hotels and some other things where they're larger projects, then you got to move. There's a lot of moving parts, but you do sections the way you build at a time. So if you have questions on that, just hit us up in the questions.
Yeah, but just talking about placement for a minute, things to be on the lookout for are the type of foundation, because if you're doing a precast concrete foundation, how close you can get is a little bit different than if it's a poured concrete
for sure.
foundation. So you have to really take that into consideration. And then well and septic considerations, knowing where on the property, if that is something that's there, just being mindful of those locations. I don't think you want to set your pick point, your crane.
No. You don't outrigger on one of those. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So you want to know where the utilities are. You want to know where the infrastructure is on the property. Typically, that's going to be marked out if you're following the rules and calling in your 1-800-DIGS or what have you. But that crane placement is very important. And another point you made was about superior walls. Big fan of superior walls if they're used properly, but it does cause the crane to have to be further away because that is a gravity type fed system. So that crane cannot be right up, close to the foundation wall like a typical poured concrete wall. So just some costs that you wouldn't think about when you're comparing the cost of a traditional foundation versus a superior walls foundation.
Right. So when you are estimating the job, that is a question that you want to know about. And Dave, as we're going through the slides, we're going to see different pictures of different modules being picked up. So can you speak to connection points and the different ways, the connection points are done and the cables and all of that as we go through the photos and just kind of call that out? Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, just even in this photo, that's a 4-point pick right there. Let's go is that time to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, so what do we have here, Jennifer? We have power lines. We have a modular set. That's a 4-point pick. Basically, depending on whether it's a residential or a commercial set, if it's steel construction or wood construction, there's so many variables of how this works. And there's so many variables depending on the weight loads. So in traditional residential construction, 10, 15 to 30,000, give or take, pounds is on average what these modules are going to cost. But when you get into the commercial, and I think we have some stuff in here on commercial as well, then you're getting up into the 40, 50, 60, almost 70,000 pounds. Big difference. And there's a different way of doing both of these and how they operate. So what you're seeing in this photo here is, let me see can you see my cursor there a little bit? We have the crane set up. The crane is, for the most part, right in front, dead center on this house. It's using a 4-point pick system. You can see the cables running down here. And these cables, unlike commercial steel, connect underneath through the band joist all the way back around. That's one solid cable from here all the way down and all the way back up and around on both sides of these. So, and the way they pick these modules too, are typically they have it on a little bit of a slant so they can get those corners exactly where they need to be, get them tied in tight and locked in place.
Absolutely. And so things, you know, again, you can see in this picture, we have some large trees, we have some power lines. So these are the things you need to really be on the lookout for.
Yeah, for sure.
And the number one thing you need to be on the lookout for is wind.
Yeah, well, definitely, especially if you're on the coastal areas or even in the Midwest tornado area. Wind is definitely an issue. These are big kites. You know, I mean, 15, 20 mile an hour, we do that for the most part. But you know, if you're having a high wind day, you're not setting modules, and the crane operator is not going to let you set it either. You're not going to be able to hold these things back from spinning.
Right.
So,
and safety, I mean, it is all about safety first and foremost. So if there's any threat, if there's any issue, we definitely have that dialed in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then just to field inspect your foundation before you start setting the modules. Make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. We shared the story, I can't remember which episode, where we were off by a few inches. And we had to
move the whole foundation 4 inches.
Right.
And that was a big townhouse project. So that was Superior Walls, and that's when I became their biggest fan.
Right.
But, you know, you're right. You know, before set day, and that's pre-construction, your guys need to be going to the site, checking, double checking, not only for square to make sure it's going to fit, but also for level. Right? These are modules. You're not building them stick by stick from the foundation up. Therefore, you know, a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch at the bottom could be a 1/2 an inch by the time you get to the peak of the roof.
Big difference.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. And then I guess that's what you're talking about here in this photo here, Jennifer. This is just the sill plates where the corners of the house drop down. And then there's some temporary tieback. A lot of this tieback is going to get redone. We redo a lot of it on our homes. They get beat up on transportation sometimes, or too many nails. You know, we really take our time and make sure we deal with water infiltration and everything else. So perfect. Here's a commercial. Yay. Mod Logic. This is a Mod Logic structure here, and I say it because they were so kind to us last week. So this is, I believe this module is going to be an 8-point pick. All right. Now, the difference between this module and the one we were showing before, I don't know if you can see this up here. This craning system happens from the top. So if you can see down below here, you can see this is a steel frame modular construction is what's going on here. And you can kind of see the lights going on underneath. There's welders that are welding these to the plates right here. All right. So these get set, put in place a little bit different, but these are welders going in on this job. Do we actually have a pic of one of these, Jen, in here?
We will. Yeah.
Okay,
we have
perfect.
some coming up. And some things also that jump out at me in these photos is just how the marriage walls or those mate walls come together. And here's an example where the doors are fully installed. And this is steel construction. So, you know, again, a commercial job, but you can see the doors are in, and where am I going with this? Marriage lines, mate walls, that sort of thing. Sometimes we decide to ship those things loose and install them on site. It just varies. But with steel construction, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, you can see even on here, Jennifer, like if you look, there's boxes of stuff packed here. There's boxes of stuff packed here. I mean, where these units come together, there can be doors, there can be windows, there can be sliders. So everything matches. They ship those loose and they will be site installed. Yeah. Now in this module, this had 5-inch concrete floors. This is not a wood frame structure by any stretch. And you can see in this top module and even here, all the MEPs are already in place, which is just, I mean, if you can think of a hospital and gas lines and everything else that are in it. And there's a pneumatic pharmaceutical delivery system.
It's unbelievable.
Right? I said, I'm gonna put my beer in there. Just send
laundry.
it to me. Where are you at?
We could do that with laundry and residential
construction.
Right.
So,
but yeah, actually, you bring up a really great point, because in residential with some of our MEPs, we actually have the HVAC contractors on site actually laying ductwork in between the modules before they're picked by the crane.
Yeah, we definitely do, right? So if we're doing, if we're doing something that's on coastal, on an island, high water area where you don't have a finished basement, where do you put that duct? You're either using a wall system of some sort, or you're going, like a mini split, or you're going to do a full ducted system. And to do the full ducted system, this is where mechanicals get tricky in modular construction. You have to think it through up front. Our contractor's been doing it a long time, and he's still designing for other people all over the place. But yeah, they're ready to go. Between the first and second floor modules, we'll run ductwork in between while they're prepping the other modules to set, and off we go.
Yeah, it's very efficient. It's incredibly efficient. And, we've seen builders do the same thing with their HVAC contractors and other trade partners on site. They're there at the crack of dawn. Everybody's super excited to get the day started, and it saves so much time and energy and effort in the long run.
It does. It really does. They get started before they even start lifting the first and second modules.
Yeah. In this one also, can you talk about tying into pre-existing? Because this was actually an addition to the hospital.
It was.
And, when you think about precision built, this is exactly what it was designed to do, to tie into a pre-existing structure and look as if it was always there.
So it is. And we have some further photos in, or if you watch the video, the intro and the outro, the brick almost matches the old hospital building, the layout. You can kind of see the old building behind. So this was actually being tied into the emergency room area as a pediatric emergency area. We could not go, obviously, into the hospital because everything's going on with COVID. I will give you some good news, though. They had 91 patients at the heat. They were down to 9 when we were down there. And this is a big hospital. It's not a small hospital. So that's amazing. Great work to the healthcare workers that are in there every day. But everything is set up because we already know where everything is in the main hospital. So the way things are running through, it's just a matter of opening up that wall when we can do that safely and run everything and just tie it together. And in these modules, if you watch some of the videos we did, the pipes, the HVAC, everything just lined up almost perfectly. And, credit to Mod Logic, because they build this whole building and then they put it together at their factory. Then they break it apart and set it.
Absolutely. And they've been working with Axis Construction, the local construction company, on several projects, and they've really learned how to work together. And there's a lot of great information that's shared back and forth and then designed into on that next project.
For sure.
So it's a really nice synergy and working relationship, how these two award-winning companies have come together. It's really nice to watch. Yeah,
I agree. All right, next slide.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. We talked about ship loose and mechanicals in the first one, but this is a great photo. One, I love the fact that, it's coming together and they're going to set this right up. You can see all the insulation. They'll fix some of this. See, they got some connection points. You can see the holes there. But all that is they're lowering it down and getting in place. I love the fact that on the last module, they always hang a flag.
Nice.
Well, that's a welcome thing to my heart. So absolutely. So this is what we're looking at. So on this top photo, they're working their way from the far back. So you can see the crane. I'm sorry, I'm looking here so I can point. Here's the crane here. They started all the way back here behind our shoot loose bubble, and they're working this back wall. And then they're going to build it out from this module this way, and then they'll build it across. So that's how they're doing it. So this is what they've done. And then they put this module as the last one in place. 2 o'clock on the second day.
So essentially they started from the furthest
corner, right? Because they want to try and keep visibility as they're setting with the team. And they work their way out. And that way they have visibility with the crane, they have visibility with each other, and they get the 1 point set and they bring it out.
Makes perfect sense. Now, this was a 1-story structure. If it was a 2-story, how would they set the second story?
It all depends on the size of the structure, because a lot of times they will start stacking one side, 1, 2, 3, depending on how many stories it is, and then it would step down, and then they do it again, boom, 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 and then step down and all the way till they get to the end.
Wow.
So they'll go 2, 3 stories, on either side, 4 stories, depending on what the building is. But they don't just do the whole first floor and then the second, or they may. It really is depending on the building, the set crew, comfort of the crane. There's a lot of variables in place. The weather. Yeah. What's going to be easiest to protect it during the course of a few days in a set.
Yeah.
For sure. We should get the guys from who's the big set crew? ProSet on. Talk about this. Yeah. That's right. All right. Precision fit. So this is just more about how it's coming together. You can see that same photo. Look how tight this is. And there's that brick I was saying about the hospital. So if I went back to, Where was the
Right,
one?
no, you just had it. There you go.
Yep, with the hospital here, you can see, and then you go to here. I mean, they did a fabulous job, and that hospital was built a long time ago. It's not a new hospital, so
Right.
outstanding. But really, all we're doing is we're showing how these are all standing here. They're paying attention to how this is coming together, and they are yelling back and forth. Millimeter this way, inch this way, bring it up, bring it down. They don't just plop it into place. They really take their time to do it. And then you can also see over the top of the roof, you got your EPDM here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's ready to go. They just need to start. They have a special sealant that they put in the roof between, and then they have I believe they burn this EPDM together is what they were doing.
Right, to marry the lines. So a couple of things, just going back for a minute, that we've talked about recently in our expert interviews. We recently had on Jerry from Integra, and also we were talking to Tiffany McCall, chairperson of Building Systems Council. So
Tiffany.
Yeah. So some of the things that we were talking about, especially now, is how offsite construction makes so much sense from a social distancing perspective and a safety perspective. So here you definitely see members of the team together, working side by side.
Right.
But on the whole, it's the crane that's doing the lifting. It's the crane that's doing the job. That typically you have, many framers on site doing that work.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the advantages, or one of the many advantages to offsite construction, specifically modular, is you can really adhere to those social distancing rules. You can keep your guys safe, your women and men safe.
Yep.
And these are both big wins for the industry that all builders in this industry can celebrate.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. And I think that's what people have to understand. The crane is an asset. It's not a hindrance for this. I mean, this is it's a tool in the tool belt that you need to do this quickly and precisely. And the good crane operator is worth his weight in gold, or her weight in gold. Yeah, absolutely. All right, next slide. Am I good to go? All right. So this is a typical, site frame structure going into place. It looks like we have a knee wall of some sort on this side here, which is going to be probably site built for whatever reason it was. Maybe there's a step down, and we got our steel beam in place. So it's really hard to see, but you can see if I go back, you can see how the pick points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now we were talking about 8 on this photo at the top here. And then these center ones where it's different than modular, these are ratcheting systems. They can ratchet and pull these to get them to where they need to be. On a site built, wood frame modular, they actually drill holes through. The cable runs underneath here and out the other side. And this is how they set these modules. So it's completely different. The weight loads are different. There's a whole lot of difference to these, but that's exactly what you're seeing. We got a steel beam already in place. That's going to be there. This unit is not going on this steel beam. They're going to run a plate across here, also a piece of wood sill plate. But everything's looking good and coming together.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see it out there, but that kitchen inside is fully installed.
Yeah, right here. It is fully installed. You can actually see the underneath of the Cambria quartz countertop, or quartz something, I think, right? For sure. So foundation attachment. In this particular set, they didn't want a whole ton of lolly columns. And I have a small video showing them setting the lolly columns on the other. It's going to take me a second to find it, though. But I can show you that as well.
Yeah.
You want me to show that now?
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about it. It seems like it's the appropriate place. And like Dave was saying, this client wanted that open span in the basement. Yeah. This is a high density area, and didn't want the lolly column. So that's where we had that steel beam brought in. And again, going back to our pre-construction requirements, making sure that steel beam is on site and is the correct steel beam prior to getting there with the set crew. That's just critical to a very successful process.
It is. So let's here's the, I don't know if you guys see that. Whoop. So this is just what they're doing. They're in the basement here. So I'll pause it there. As you can see, we have everybody in place, right? Depending. So the last house had a steel beam that we showed, and you don't need all these lolly columns in the basement to carry the weight loads. But those lolly columns go down to footer pads on the concrete floor. This is the set crew getting everything in place, and they have everything cut precisely. Basically what they do is they put a chalk string line across that center, and then they can cut those lolly columns to the exact height. and then the crane, and there's guys above, working the crane, doing their finger symbols and downs and ups, and
Right.
they're going to set that, on this foundation or on these lolly columns right now. So
Yeah.
you can see here, he dropped that. I remember why they had to actually cut it.
Oh.
It was too high. They were running a laser in this job, but it was too high. So that's what's going on there.
So in this example, is our floor poured already?
Yeah. This is a fully poured concrete floor. It looks wet because there was a little bit of rain happening on this set. But yeah, it's already in place. The floor is done. They actually already had some waterproofing stuff done on their walls. This particular customer, this was somebody that we built several homes for in the past, and they, high water table. I think this house was in Greenwich, Connecticut, and they wanted no issues with water. I mean, this has got to be the dry. There isn't a submarine on the inside dryer in this basement. It's dry. But like I always tell people, when we were building, we don't. They always say, "Am I gonna have a wet basement?" And I would say, "We don't build submarines." So you never know. But hopefully it stays dry. I haven't heard from them. So
Right.
This was that was a great set. So let me go back to our other. I'm getting better at this.
It's high tech introducing video in the middle of this week, so that's exciting.
It is exciting. Our intros, everything, right? It's all super cool. All right, Jen, we're back in. So where are we going here?
Let's go to the next slide.
All right. Foundation attachments. Why is that not showing? Hold on. Try one more
Let's
time
bring
here.
that in. So in the next slide, we'll see another photo of the set with the lolly columns and see how that compares to setting a home on piers and also a commercial site, where, as Dave mentioned, you can see in that very tiny picture, they're actually welding the modules to the foundation.
Yeah, they are. So depending on what the set is in a commercial set, I think it was right here is where Jennifer's talking in this bottom left corner. So this is commercial, where they're welding to a steel plate that's tied into this whole footer system that they're doing. This was the hospital. This is a home that is on piers, and this one's on piers, but we're showing you these because it's just easy to show the attachments. So like anything else, there's wind strapping. As you can see on this bottom photo here, right? There's wind straps in place, and there's a couple of them there because it depends on the load that needs to be tied down and where those point loads are that the structural engineers say, hey, this is where you have to have your strapping. It's going to vary depending on whether this is an inland build, a coastal build, any of those things. All of this makes a big, big difference, right?
Absolutely.
This other photo here is also on piers, but you can see where we're using strapping on this one. Here they're using it's called an HU clip. I don't remember the exact number, but some of these run all the way up through into the framing itself versus just being a strap on the outside of the building. It actually runs up into the framing, and on the side wall, there'll be sheathing left off to where you can tie all that together and crank it down really, really tight.
And what's amazing, I mean, we chose not to show the videos of this, but there are videos out there of storms that have rolled through and homes that are built using this method of construction with these tie downs, these straps, and in neighborhoods where the other homes did not use that type of engineering. And it's a dramatic difference in terms of the outcome. Oh,
very dramatic. I mean, like just even Hurricane Sandy, when we had that up here, when I went down, we had projects when we were building, and my gosh, the houses everywhere to the right and to the left. I could show you photos of that, but that just causes a whole other storm of conversation with people. And then we just saw this one up here where they're setting the lolly columns. Now this is a little bit different. So we have through bolt straps on this one. Typically what they'll do here is they will drill and then epoxy into the foundation. Their bolts and have wind strapping on the outside. It just depends on if you pour that strap into the concrete or you feel more comfortable putting through bolts in through the concrete, epoxying it and up into the through the band joist of the wall.
Right. And here we see another example of a module being lifted by a crane, and you can see the point system being used here. So just another example of how things come together.
All right. Roof lines. So, all right, this is the same house. So as you can see, this is how the modules come shipped flat, right? These roofs are on hinges, and you can see we have our eaves here. ready to be flipped up. The crane's going to lift it, and then you have your flip overs here that's going to make the ridge line, which is this piece right across top here. So this is the before. The crane picks the roof up. This is the after. And there's some shingling and stuff that has to happen in valleys and crickets and everything else when you're doing a single family.
It's just amazing to me, though, that's how it all comes together. Yeah. How quickly. I mean, these photos were taken, relatively close in time.
Yeah. This is one day's worth of work. Yeah. So from setting it on the foundation, I mean, this is a smaller home, to finishing that roof is probably one day, maybe a day and a half's worth of work.
Yeah.
That's fast to get a house under roof, and that kitchen's in there and everything else is in there. But we were talking earlier about ship loose, right? Obviously there's a garage underneath this house, right? So we wouldn't ship loose the garage door. It's going to be installed locally, but the door next to it or windows on the back side of this would be ship loose in the house. So we have the same windows as the rest of the house, or we don't have to go and order them and wait for them. They're already there, ready to go.
Exactly.
For sure. All right, more roof lines. So, you can jump into this one, but this is getting more into the commercial, except for that bottom left one.
Yeah. So this is just a little bit of an assortment of the different things that projects that we've worked on in the past. Obviously one thing that modular construction does really well is that modern style home with the flat roofs and rooftop decks. I mean, that, again, if you're a coastal builder, that's really what, you see a lot of out here, taking advantage of coastal views. The other home in the lower left-hand corner is one of my favorite homes.
This one here?
Yes. Just you can see how the roof comes together, and, there's that misconception out there that everything is square and boxy. Well, the answer to that is only if you want it to be.
That's right. 100%. And listen, every building is rectangular or square for the most part. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of how you dress it. It's no different than getting up and getting dressed to go to the gym or getting dressed to go to work. It depends on what you're going to put on. You're going to put on your $100 pair of sneakers, or, if you're like some people I know, you have $300 pair of suede shoes. I don't wear suede shoes myself, but if you do, it's okay. So I think it's just a matter of just preference and what you want. But roof lines are no different. The difference with roof lines in any construction is the cost.
Right.
If you want a more complex roof line or a more complex house with a lot of angles, it's going to cost you more money.
Right.
Bar none. Doesn't matter whether it's modular or whether it is site built. It's just a matter of how you get it done. So You're right. And then these other roof lines that you're seeing over here, and it looks like that was I can't say it counts. In this multifamily stuff that we've done work on, it just depends. EPDM, parapets. I mean, you can do everything you want to do. You want to do gambrels, gables. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Flat roofs.
Yeah.
It can all be done.
Yeah. And again, we're still seeing up and down the coast, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, dormers, doghouse style. Again, it's maximizing your views, and all of that can be done.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So, hey, listen, if you're just joining us, I mean, this is great. We're talking all about building modular and today's set day. So if you're just joining us, please hit that like and share button. Start asking your questions. We're getting close to question and answer time. I run out of the room. I let Jennifer handle all that stuff, but I may stick around. So, but yeah, please do like and share, and tell us where you're from. We love to hear where people are from, and we want to keep the conversation going. All right, so we are on roof lines, and if you missed any of this, you can re-watch it on YouTube or go back to the activities page.
Absolutely.
I should put the YouTube subscription button up there. I don't know why I do that. I make it so hard for everybody to find our stuff. I got to get better at it. All right, so building modular, weather-tight finishing stage. All right, so we were showing a set of this house earlier, I believe, because that's that knee wall right there we were talking about.
That's exactly right. So by the end of the set, really, you're weather tight, right? Your roof line's tied in, you're wrapped, and that's when you move into your finishing stage. So a lot of the photos that you saw in this presentation were exactly that, the set of this home.
Right.
And you can you can see the before and after. So now that we've talked about the installation, we'll be moving into the finishing stage. But really the goal at the end of your installation, whether it's a single day set, a multi-day set, is really to be weather tight.
Yep, weather tight is good. You don't want water. Sheetrock does not do well in water. But yeah, that photo to the left, I'm assuming it's your left too on your picture. I mean, that's a day and a half's worth of work right there, you know. And that Tyvek and everything that's still on there, the house wrap still needs some work in this photo. It's not complete, but you know, we're talking just a few months later. That's the finished product, and this house is. I mean, that's James Hardy. It was really, really done nice, full finish, walk-up attic, everything. Very, very nice. And, you know, I love this house. When you see the inside of this house, it's gorgeous. We have to show it. We'll do that and on the interior finish stuff. All right. So that was it.
That was it.
Did I go too fast?
No, but as you can see, I mean, it is a very fast process. So much effort goes in, not so much effort, but so much goes into the planning process, the design process, the pre-construction. You know, you've done all of your homework, you've checked all of your documents, so that when it's time to set the modules, that part's quick.
It is quick. It really is. It's all in the pre-planning. It's the ballet of coordination. You got to know your stuff. And I think that the most important thing with modular construction is pre-planning.
Absolutely.
It's pre-planning. And so, Jennifer, we always like to promote our industry people. So we have the Building Systems Counselor, Modular Home Builders Association, and the Modular Building Institute. I mean, they're three of the main organizations out there that you can ask questions, you can become members. You're not on an island all by yourself, and you can really figure this stuff out without doing it on your own. We're always here to help as well. So please make sure you join your local NAHB, also building associations. If you're not doing that, we don't get paid by any of these people. We don't.
But we believe in them, and we believe in the power of picking the right partners. It's all about the relationships. It's like building for a client who you love versus building for a client who is just okay in the scheme of things. It makes a huge difference. So when you're thinking about the installation process specifically, picking the right partners is critical to the success of your project. So picking the right crane crew, picking the right set crew. A lot of companies, a lot of builders out there, they actually have all that in-house.
Right.
You know, they're fully vertically integrated, and that's a great model as well. But if you're a builder just starting out, lean on these resources like the Building Systems Council, the Modular Home Builders Association, MBI. This is where you'll find the partners that you really need.
Yep.
And we also learned this week again, on our call with Tiffany McCall, that the Building Systems Council Summit is still happening in Atlanta.
So far, it's still happening. I know I'm itching to, you know, go somewhere and do something for sure. But yeah, so far it's going to be happening, and I think it's a great event. I cannot stress enough if you know, this isn't, you know, when we look at the Building Systems Council and some of these other organizations. You know, offsite construction is only 4 or 5% of the entire industry. Everybody is willing to help. And that's what you're going to find is different. Absolutely. It's, yes, you got to join the NAHB with the Building Systems Council, but the Building Systems Council in and of itself, just like you saw with Tiffany yesterday, amazing people. Everybody will reach out and give you a helping hand when you're trying to learn this industry or you get stuck. So there you have it. Let's join them. Jennifer, who do we have on LinkedIn? I mean, you know, we have to figure out this way you were sharing last time to put the comments and everything up there. I thought it was pretty cool. All right. So, hey, Tom Reddy, Rick Hawkins. Who else do we have here? Let me get into this.
So it looks like, oh goodness.
Jessica Barnes, making connections. Great. Hey, Jessica. Ivan Rupnik, I love it. Modex, my man, what is happening? Right? Ivan and I were talking. We were going to do some podcasting stuff someday.
You know what?
Call me.
Ivan has some great resources too. You know, in terms of just the history of modular and where it's going, and again, all the great partners out there. Like, unbelievable resource for education.
Yeah, so. Ivan does. I mean, Ivan and Modex. I mean, they really are on their game on a global scale. When it comes to the educational side, the science behind all of this stuff. So definitely a good person to know for sure. All right, what do we have in here? Atlanta SFO and SFR 1 to 48 units. Rick Hawkins. Hey, Rick. Hi, Hunter. Modular construction from Missouri.
Welcome.
Welcome, Oscar. I don't know if you've been on before, but hey, listen, glad you're here. If you have any questions, would love to know how long you've been in business, how long you've been doing this. Put it out there, help people if you've been doing it a long time and you know your stuff. Anthony Good, always tuning in. Thanks, Anthony. Tom Reddy, we are starting to see the modular trend grow in Western PA home building with the options to add on over time. Do you see this trend elsewhere? Go ahead.
So, yes, this is, again, one of the great advantages to modular construction. It's all about the design. It's all about the prep work. And we've seen this happen time and time again. We recently worked with a builder who had a client that they built for, 15 or 20 years ago. The client came back and said, we're finally ready to add that third story. So they were able to do that. We also obviously have our friends in Pittsburgh, Brian Gaudio and his crew Modular, which is they're doing fantastic work from a design perspective and really being advocates and evangelists for this exact process and concept and theory, right? Build your home to grow.
That's it. I mean, they've come up with some of their own roof patents and stuff like that. So Modular in Pittsburgh's doing it. So to answer your question, Tom, absolutely. And Tom, you're from Pittsburgh too. So yeah, everything good happens in Pittsburgh. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. Don't get offended. I'm just from Pittsburgh.
We're going to have a show called 412 versus the world.
Right? That's right. Or 724, depending on where you live in Pittsburgh. But yeah, 412. So yeah, for sure. There is a lot of talk and a lot of conversation about designing an offsite to ways to where it is expandable. It can grow not only residential, but also commercial.
Yeah. And another huge trend that we're seeing in our neck of the woods and in other builders that we've spoken to are garage with living quarters above, which is perfect for modular. I mean, it's just such an easy solution to build modularly. So it
really is. We have Craig Carter, Advanced Building Methods Enthusiast. I love people like this, man. Thank you for providing this content. Have enjoyed watching and listening. Well, I can tell you what, there's some other things happening. I don't even think I told you yet.
Oh, goodness.
But my friend Mark Willie and I are talking about Friday. We're going to have BS Fridays.
Oh my God.
And we may even start at noon with beer on our show. We might. Mark, are you listening? If you're out there, BS Fridays. What does BS stand for? Do you know?
Well, I know what most people think it stands for.
Not what you think it is. Building Science Friday. And I have a very good friend of mine, Mark Willie. When I say very good friend, we're social media friends, but man, we really hit it off.
I don't think that the world can handle it when we meet Mark in person.
Listen, I know. Here's the great part is, if you saw us side by side, I mean, I have no hair and he's straight out of Duck Dynasty almost.
Oh my gosh, but he's got a heart of gold. So
he does have a heart of gold.
Actually, I should say a heart of green. He has a heart of green.
Yeah. And he'll probably wear his green jacket. He has like a green, master's jacket he wears, but he's super big into, green building and passive house construction, container house. So we're thinking about adding that show and we're going to talk about it today. So if you like that idea, give us some thumbs up out there. BS Fridays, Building Science Fridays. But boy, we could have a play on some shirts with that, right?
Oh my gosh.
So there you have it. And that's not my idea. That's Mark's idea. So
it's going to be a good one.
All right. Let's see if anybody else. Trisha, is that Guido?
Guido.
Hello from the West Coast. Great job. Found you last year, and the new heat map is amazing. Well, listen, that heat map is amazing, and kudos to Housing Innovation Alliance. They've done a great job working with everybody. And, again, this goes back to the industry people, Modular Home Builders Association, MBI, Building Systems Council at Devin Perry at the NAHB. They all help put their input into that, Tricia. So I'm glad you guys are liking it. And if you don't know about it, you got to go see the heat map. You can find it on the Housing Innovation Alliance website. And if you are a manufacturer or a supplier or a framer that's certified, you can put your information on there to help grow this heat map. And it's going to be a great resource for everybody across this country.
Yeah. So this is the partnership that Dave was referring to in terms of the offsite community.
Yeah.
Because so many people are starting to dip their toe and really want to learn about how do we do things? How can we help them? Especially some of the bigger production builders out there. So really everybody's on a map and can be found. So like Dave was saying, if you're not on that map, you need to be. And
Yeah.
being part of these organizations like MHBA and MBI, who participated in that alliance initiative, that's how the community grows, and that's how you become part of the community.
Really?
So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, thank you for that. That's a great comment.
Yeah. So if you're out there, we're going to give it a few more minutes here. If you have questions, we would love to hear from you. So Jennifer, what else do we have coming up tomorrow? Let's tell everybody, hey, this is great news. So we've been talking about set. Last week we were on ModLogic set. So guess who's going to be on tomorrow?
Well, it has to be somebody fabulous.
Well, it is. It's the one and only Jim Gabriel from ModLogic.
Yeah.
ModLogic, Jim Gabriel is going to be here. We're going to talk specifically about their product, what their vision is, the type of construction they do, a lot of commercial stuff. So if you're in a commercial building, these are the guys you want to tune into and listen to, because Jim Gabriel has a ton of knowledge. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to have him on.
Yeah, it's almost like an industry expert / product spotlight conversation that will be happening tomorrow. And one of the plus ones that ModLogic offers is they actually assemble all of the modules in their manufacturing plants and then disassemble them for transport. So talk about precision built. They're taking it to that, next level.
They really are. They really are. When I walked through that structure down there, I mean, the floors were spot on level. The walls were spot on level. It was not, well, it's not wood either. So, wood is not perfectly straight. There's a lot of customers out there think it should be, but wood is not perfectly straight. So, with that said, all right, everybody, give us one more like and a share, and please tune in every Tuesday at 1 o'clock for this. Tomorrow, we're going to have Jim Gabriel on ModLogic. Thursday is increasing your influence. So if you want to figure out how to increase your influence in time like this, all we're doing is asking or answering people's questions that people are asking.
Right.
How is this all going to change? And here's a big question for all of you before you leave. And I'm going to do a poll on this, will the offsite industry increase its market share after this crisis is over because of the crisis? Do you feel that our labor is going to leave? Do you feel that there's going to be a better reason why for people to start looking at offsite as the solution moving forward? In 2008, we gained market share, because of the trade labor issues and the unskilled labor. And, now there's so many people out of work, and, I think the same thing's going to happen. I would love your opinion on that. So if you want to put that in the comments, I would love to hear that. And I may do a little short video on that anyhow.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see the results of that. And then following that, something that I'm really looking forward to is on Monday, we have Sarah Logan joining us. And
I forgot about Sarah
Logan from Volumetric Building Companies, Lab House. She's going to be talking about all things design and how we get the next generation of designers into our world of offsite construction. Design for manufactured assembly is a hot topic right now. And how do we get more people interested in that line of work and doing that type of work? That to me is a topic I'm certainly interested in, and can't wait to hear Sarah.
Yeah, so if you're a builder out there,